Well, look at you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to another Barry Hawkins Live, hosted by, you guessed it, Barry Hawkins. We are continuing our journey through effective development process at the team level. We've come so far. There's a bit to go. We began looking in our last episode at the roles in effective development process, beginning with the team steward. And tonight we talk about the second role, the product steward. So the product steward, similar to the team steward, product steward is a role that I framed, which encompasses the range of agile team development process settings. Because one example, the predominant example in teams taking an agile product development approach as far as who fills a product steward role is Scrum's product owner. That's a pretty canonical example of a product steward, but as you always hear me say, not every team is running Scrum, nor should they. Some are running other flavors of batch development process like Scrum. Some are running flow-based development processes like Kanban, because that's actually a better fit for the nature of the work that they do. And so the product steward is someone filling a very specific need and mechanic within a team, within a cross-functional development team, across a range of development process types. This role is a close partner to the team steward, and in an upcoming episode where we talk about all of the roles together, once we've covered each of them, we'll speak more to that dynamic. But also, it's important to note that the product steward is part of the team. When we're looking at what is a product steward, they are a partner to the team steward. They are part of the team. That is, they are embedded and considered to be part of that development team. There are some approaches to some of the agile development methodologies that treat the product steward or Scrum's product owner as if they're outside of the team. That's an anti-pattern that arose many years ago. Most of us have worked through that and consider them part of the team, but you'll still see it in spots. But just to underscore, they are part of the team. We're in this together. The product steward role is often filled by a product manager, someone from the product management functional discipline, because the activities of a product steward do align with much of what the craft of product management, and particularly the craft of product management within an agile or lean product development process, the way they approach it. So that's the product steward role. Now let's talk about what we're going to focus on from here are the core responsibilities of an effective product steward, what their charter is meant to be at its core. First, the product steward is charged with stewarding the vision, backlog, and roadmap for the product or products that their team works on. So what is the vision for the application or service or part of an application that this team works on? The product steward is moving that forward, curating it, narrating that product arc for where are we going with this product? How are we evolving it? How are we expanding it? How are we retiring some parts of it that may not serve our users as well anymore? But shepherding that vision, and the vision for a product, if it's truly the vision, then it should also be reflected in the backlog and roadmap. The backlog being that queue of work, roughly 6 cycles deep, where there's more detail and refinement for the things at the top of the queue. There's less detail and refinement for the things in the lower half of the queue, or just the further down you go, because of course these outcomes that we're putting into the bottom of the queue to work their way up, when they first come in, we know very little, and to some extent there's limited value in going ahead and fleshing those things fully out 6 cycles or more out, because for all we know, things could significantly change. And that might be something that we decide not to do, or it might be something that we decide not to do soon. And so if we undertake all the effort to flesh that out, and it turns out being something we didn't want to do, or if it turns out to be something we don't do for a while, by the time we are looking to do it, usually enough has changed where much of that effort was forfeit in specifying the detail too early. That speaks to that core tenet of agile and lean product development approaches of waiting until the last responsible moment to apply effort, make decisions, because deciding too soon is, while it's a common pattern, it's not a good idea. Neither is deciding too late, of course. All right, and then the roadmap. So that's the backlog and the queue, but they're also shepherding the roadmap. The roadmap being the in-flight, on deck, and beyond portions of our work queue and just our priorities projected upon the canvas of execution. We're not working on, while a backlog is a linear queue, we don't work on things serially in that linear queue, right? There are multiple things in flight at any given moment, or multiple things coming on deck at any given moment as we're moving work on our product or the various products that we work on, as we're moving that work through our team. And so the product steward is meant to be the one running point, if you will, or primarily, though not solely responsible, for curating, evolving, and driving those things. Now, in the second thing, the second key part of the product steward role, in stewarding that product vision, backlog, and roadmap, they are meant to, it is key, it is fundamental that they are engaging the cross-functional team as a whole to inform the approach of the work, the effort of the work, and the timeline at which we're currently projecting those various bits of work to complete. This engaging the team to inform the vision, backlog, and roadmap is uniquely characteristic to the agile and lean approaches to product development. There are some more classical and some just alternate approaches where the team is not informed, and a product steward or product manager comes up with the approach, even though they're not the one doing the work. They come up with an approach and hand it to a team and say, go do the work this way. And they tell them, and I think it should take you this long, and I think you should have it done by this date. That is counter to what we're going for with effective development process in agile and lean settings. Remember from the 4 key outcomes of effective development process that we are cultivating an understanding of a team's schedule, helping a team cultivate an understanding of their schedule capacity. We are building cohesion, that is, we are having them work together as a team, build trust with one another to have that sense of belonging and purpose as a group. And thirdly, we are preserving agency. We are preserving the voice of the team and the individuals on the team in how they approach and how large or small they think the various work items are. If that begins to be prescribed, well, now we're undermining their agency and we're going against one of the 4 key outcomes. So effective product stewardship does involve engaging and involving all of the team members to inform approach, effort, and timeline. One of the ways that I talk about product stewardship in this respect is for me, An effective product steward is like a storyteller or an author whose source material is predominantly other people's input. That is, they come to the team with a possibility, with an opportunity, and they say, this is an opportunity that I believe we should pursue, and here's why. Here's the information that informs the desire to pursue that opportunity. Now, each of you who know what we would have to do in order to make this a reality, how could we do that? What are the ways in which we could do that? Because very often, in fact, almost always, there's more than one way to approach delivering a given outcome. And usually those differences involve more or less of a feature set, and they usually involve more or less effort to accomplish those things. And since at any given time, for most product development teams, when we're asking them about one thing, it's not the only thing we're asking them about. So we need to be able to have those conversations around how we're going to take our finite capacity and decide how much we put into each of the different outcomes to accomplish them. The last core aspect of effective product stewardship is that the product steward's role within the team is also to be the person primarily driving stakeholder alignment. That is, as changes to the team's to the priority and the work in the team's backlog, as that changes due to various forces, and as that also affects their roadmap, the stakeholders, and stakeholders specifically meaning in this context, people who have a say in both the content and priority of a team's backlog, the product steward is driving stakeholder alignment. That is, as these changes happen, they are proactively communicating with each stakeholder to say, hey, I know that the last time we spoke, this was the state of things, and these items you really cared about were right here. Well, now one of them is still there, but two of them are deferred because of this reason and because of this context. And in my experience, this is one of the superpowers of effective product stewards. They do a great job of proactively engaging with stakeholders so that they're not surprised or shocked when they come to a cycle review or are at a demo or receiving communications about a release plan or release notes, because the product steward is proactively communicating with them and saying, while some of the stuff you really care about is coming now, some of it is not, but it's the same case for all these other parties because we're having to balance competing demands and other constraints, right? And that's driving stakeholder alignment is one of the ways that a product steward can greatly impact a team's health. Because when driving stakeholder alignment when that's being accomplished, it typically greatly helps the morale of the team because the expectation management is being handled. There's not an expectation mismatch between what stakeholders thought they were about to hear that got delivered and what actually did get delivered, because the product steward stays on top of that. So stewarding the product vision, backlog, and roadmap, engaging the team to inform approach, effort, and timeline, and lastly, driving stakeholder alignment. Those things are at the core of effective product stewardship in development teams. All right, let's look at the submitted questions. First, can one person be the team steward and product steward? Yes, there are situations where one person will be serving both of these roles. I will say that it is possible, but not optimal. Because when you begin to look at the team steward and product steward role and what it takes to do it well, it's a fairly time-consuming endeavor. And also because team stewards and product stewards are usually, or most often, mapped across two teams. So like one team steward, they handle the development process for two teams. And so it is with a product steward, two separate teams, backlogs and roadmaps. And that fills up, doing those things fills up the week pretty fast. It surprises some people who've never done it how much of your week driving stakeholder alignment can take. So it can be one person can do both. It's typically not optimal. And I'll also say that these roles, the team steward and product steward roles, and if I were to talk about the most common functional disciplines, team stewards, delivery management type folks, program managers, technical program managers, game producers, they are drawn to that profession, and it's a distinct profession for a reason. And people tend to gravitate toward that because they're elements of their personality or affinity for a given work style or type of work draws them there. And so it is with product stewards and product management. The craft of product management is distinct and separate from delivery management, though you'll often hear some people will just say, well, I'm a product manager, and then they start telling you what they do, and they're mostly running a development process for a team. If your title is product manager, but most of your time is spent just executing the development process for a team, you're really feeling more of a team steward role. Anyway, for these roles, they are distinct crafts, and so they tend to draw distinct people. Having talked to a number of colleagues over the years who've been in the one person doing both scenario, I had a few people worded it to me almost exactly the same. They said, well, at the end of the day, everybody knows that you don't like both. I mean, there's one or the other that you like to do, and hopefully you're so good at that, and you're not too bad at the other, that overall people just roll with it, which I guess works. It definitely doesn't sound optimal if you can help it. So yeah. Next, when would a product steward be someone other than a product manager? Okay, good question. So the product steward role is most often filled by a product manager, or someone who's similarly functionally disciplined to a product manager. But there are times when it can make sense to have someone else be someone from another functional discipline be in the product steward role. When there's a team whose work is predominantly, if not exclusively, engineering, and the stakeholders in the domain are a very well-known and established specialization, then and when what the team needs to work on relies heavily, if not exclusively, just on technical or architectural strategy, then that's an example of a scenario where the product steward role could be filled by an engineering manager or a director of engineering or what have you, because they typically are grounded and immersed enough in that, and some of the activities that the deeper craft of product stewardship, like running a full product development lifecycle and doing research and discovery and opportunity articulation and assessment and feeding that into prioritization. Not every team and not every domain and workload leverages all of those upstream product development lifecycle aspects. So in those cases and in those scenarios, having having someone like an engineering manager or what have you be the product steward role can work out just fine. Additionally, in a video game development setting, the product steward role is sometimes split somewhat, because the vision and direction for the roadmap and what have you might be taken on by a design lead on a team, and then the game producer, who's predominantly the team steward, they might also be doing the more mechanical parts of product stewardship. That is, engaging the team to inform and flesh out the approach, level of effort, what have you, and running point with the stakeholders who, within a video game development setting, the stakeholders are usually a far more known and less widespread group than in traditional product development settings. And so sometimes those aspects of product stewardship can sit with the producer, and the vision and creative aspects of product stewardship can sit with the design lead. So those are some examples of where you don't necessarily have a product manager always being in the product steward role. Let's see. Lastly, what are some common misunderstandings about the role of product steward? I'd say the first one is, I alluded to it briefly earlier. Product stewardship is not delivery management. That is, running the development process for a team and managing, how a team breaks down and executes their work. That is team stewardship. But particularly for startups, I see a lot in startups where it's, typically people are wearing many hats. People will be given a product title, product manager title, but then when you look at what they're doing, it's really not product management. They're doing pretty much exclusively delivery management. There's not a lot of discovery, ideation. This is not universal, by the way. It's just in some settings. But there's not that full product development lifecycle activity going on. It's mostly, here's the queue of stuff to build, and we know what we need to build, because if we don't do that in 8 weeks, we probably won't close our Series A, and we can all go find other jobs, right? It's like what to build is far less ambiguous in those settings. But yeah, so product stewardship is not predominantly delivery management. I'd say another thing, there's a paradigm in product management circles where product managers are described as, or recommended that they act as mini CEOs. I don't feel that's a particularly useful metaphor in effective product stewardship, because when I most often see it invoked at the team level by a product steward, well, I'm a mini CEO. They're thinking of the dysfunctional, dictator style CEOs. It's like mini CEO has taken his carte blanche so I can be a little tyrant. No, and operate as if I'm on an island. That's the other thing. Mini CEO, the mini CEO paradigm, I most often see people interpret it as, I'm driving and prescribing the actions of everybody on my team. I am the dictator of this team, and because I'm a mini CEO and this team is like my little company, I also don't have to collaborate or make trade-offs with and drive stakeholder alignment with these other parties, and that's pretty much never helpful either. So yeah, I'd say those are some of the most common misunderstandings about the role. Trying to think if there's anything else. Not really. Those are some of the most common things that I see folks miss about the role. And yeah, that is the product steward. We'll be moving to the third role, that is the role of cross-functional team members, in our subsequent episode. So be sure to tune in for that. If you found value in this video, please do hit the subscribe and like button and click on ye old notifications bell so that you can get notifications about upcoming live streams and be the first to know when new videos are uploaded to the channel. And let's see, from the prior episode, so I did get a haircut, and you might not be able to tell. Now, this is the third time in my life that a stylist has talked me into getting layers when I have my hair cut. So I'll say, guys who are growing your hair out, or maybe your hair is grown out and someday you're going to go get it cut, or some ladies, you may have never gone to a stylist where you got the layers pushed on you, but I will say proceed with caution with the layers. It's wild out there. I know I'm learning for sure. So yeah, hair advice, one of the many side benefits of the Barry Hawkins live stream. So that's it for this week. Please stay tuned. Keep an eye out for upcoming episodes. We upload this episodes of this show weekly, and other content will be appearing on the channel as well in due course. And until next time, may you have the healthiest teams and the most effective teams you could possibly have. And we'll see you next time. Take care.